the void, no one can hear you scream. We are talking Dracula in space. And this is directed by Gregory Randolph Jr. and is produced by Louisa Warren. Now, Dracula in space. Okay, so this is a very low budget movie. You can probably buy a 20-year-old small car for the budget that this movie costs, I would say. What is the story? It's kind of a retelling of the Dracula story, but in space. And we have actually seen this before, believe it or not, in the movie called Dracula 3000. And this movie is actually very similar to Dracula 3000. We have a crew of the spaceship, the Demeter. And, we've got Harker on there, all the rest of it. And they discover a derelict ship floating out in space. And when they go to investigate, they find what appears to be a coffin, although they think it's some sort of cryo chamber. And it is, of course, the tomb of Dracula, who now comes back to life to menace this crew. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's discuss. Now this, again, very, very low budget movie. I don't know the actual budget, but it's clearly very low. Can we say anything that works in this movie's favour? Okay. Now, again, with that budget in mind, I actually kind of quite liked a couple of the design choices here. Dracula's ship is kind of like a gothic looking ship with kind of like church sort of like kind of style windows, which I thought was quite a fun, it's like a CGI model of a ship, but I could have quite liked it. I've got to say, it has this sort of gothic appeal to it, which I thought was quite fun. I didn't think the makeup for the actual Dracula character was actually that bad for a clearly very, very low budget movie. And they've kind of gone with a sort of rock star look for Dracula. He's all blinged out with his chains and his rings and all that. So I thought that was kind of, maybe it was a little bit of a Lestat sort of influence. And this movie does have a couple of other influences. There's a scene here which is kind of reminiscent of The Thing, where they're testing each other if they're, someone's infected. There's clearly like a kind of Aliens vibe to it as well. I mean, at least this is what it's trying to to get across, I should say. And obviously, it is kind of Dracula. But interestingly, the Dracula legend does exist in the context of this story. They're actually, this is meant to be set in the future, and they kind of research it and find that Dracula did exist in this movie's past, but it just happens to have everyone that has the same name. What are the chances, eh? Fate and all that, as we're told in the movie. There's one or two scenes where we kind of have these sort of dream sequences or kind of like VR simulations where I thought, okay, that looked alright, a bit of church music and stuff. But to be honest with you, positives are few and far between, let me just say. So, I guess the only other thing I would say, and maybe this isn't actually directly a positive, but if you like watching bad movies, if you enjoy Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood films, The Room, then prepare to have another movie in your collection, is all I'm going to say. This is legitimately such a bad movie, it's actually quite amusing to watch. Yeah, right. So, the decision here is to take this movie dead straight. Which is a choice. I mean, the British horror films tend to do this. These kind of low-budget British horror films, they never really seem to lean into the camp, which I always think is a missed opportunity. Something like this, I mean, lean into the silly nature, because it is silly. And it really is a remake of Dracula 3000. I mean, it's pretty much the same plot. You've even got like a synth and stuff, like an android. Which, is an interesting idea when you're kind of going up against Dracula. Someone who's a robot, who's not alive technically. Interesting idea. But it was done in Dracula 3000. And that wasn't a brilliant film, don't get me wrong. Right, so it's taken sort of too seriously when it could have been way camp. And when this movie ends up being campy, unintentionally, it really looks quite hammy because it is taken seriously. It is like the budget here, you know, it's so low. Like I said, praise to the makeup. I think it's not bad, but like the set is just like clearly just like a building, you know, and it's like we're meant to believe it's like a space ship or whatever, and then we have these kind of scenes by the windows. It's a really bad sort of like green screen, and so I think we see the stars outside. I mean, look, I'm a little forgiving of the low budget aesthetic. This is what my channel is predicated on at the end of the day, but you know, when it's really, really bad, you've still got to call it out. I mean, there's probably ways around it, but again, I am a little more forgiving than some for this kind of thing, but it is very cheap looking. The acting is terrible. It is really bad, like really bad. Oh, man, everyone here is so like has no emotion in this. The performances are so cardboard. The one guy who's playing like the android, maybe you can forgive him because he's kind of meant to be a little bit like, you know, emotionless. Fine, maybe we can kind of give him a pass. But everyone else really is just kind of like, it is the most bland line reading. I mean, it looks like they've just got the first 5 or 6 people that they've seen on the street. You can be in this movie. Read those lines. It is so bad. The movie is quite dialogue heavy as well. Because it's basically the good old conversations in rooms. When you can't afford to do VFX, what do you fall back on? Conversations in rooms, the Asylum's old trick. And this is one of these. So we have lots of dialogue sequences in these kind of drab kind of looking locations, which is meant to be this ship, by terrible acting with banal dialogue. I mean, I guess if I had to sort of pull out another positive here, they try and do something a little bit of interesting, trying to explain about how Dracula operates this far in the future and things like that. Okay, so, you know, the movie I think could have been better than it is. It's just dull though. It is just dull. It is people talking in rooms, long sort of silences, like uncomfortable kind of silences where you feel like, what, something say something or something should be happening, but no, it's just kind of like people like looking around sort of awkwardly. You know, it's so awkward. The Dracula character, oh my god, you know, if you thought Frankenfurter from or the Rocky Horror Picture Show, or whatever the character was called, I can't remember, was camp, you haven't seen nothing yet, and this is unintentionally. It's just a terrible movie. I mean, it's just not interesting. I think it's like, you know, when you're doing something like this, go, like, lean into it. Lean into the absurd nature. But it just, you know, it just doesn't do it. And it's trying to be sincere. Oh, man. I mean, my God. Here we are in February when I'm recording this. A contender for the top 10 worst movies of the year already. Oh, boy. But like I said, you can probably genuinely watch this and just go, let's just watch this crazy crappy film, because it is really crappy. I'm going to give it 2 out of 10 for the kind of the little elements of the production design which I did appreciate. But it's not an interesting movie. It is really dull, which is probably the worst thing. You know, had this been as crap but at least fun, I'd be a lot more forgiving. But it's not. Have you seen it? Would you see it? Please do let me know your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you next time.